Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. We've been going over some of the, and I'm still working up the list here, the various crimes, acts of violence committed in the name, literally in the name of Donald Trump. People citing Donald Trump in writing or in court as the inspiration for their actions, and asking the question, is inspiring basically civil war? These are acts of insurrection, an impeachable offense. I think it is. In fact, I think it's more of an impeachable offense than obstructing Robert Mueller's investigation or paying off Stormy Daniels. And we'll continue that conversation in just a moment. But given what's going on right now, I wanted to bring back our old buddy, Dr. Justin A. Frank, MD. He's a psychoanalyst and clinical professor at the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. He is the author of Trump on the Couch, his most recent book. He also wrote Obama on the Couch and Bush on the Couch. And his Twitter handle is Justin Frank, MD. And Dr. Frank, welcome back.
Thanks, Tom. Good to be back.
So, The Atlantic had an article, the headline of which was, Trump is in an abusive relationship with America. Trump says that he loves America, and yet he seems intent on tearing this country apart. I get it that he's afraid that if he doesn't get reelected under this Department of Justice policy, once he's out of office, he can be prosecuted. As well as his family, and there's something about that. But you've talked about the psychopathologies associated here. In your mind, what's going on?
Well, first of all, Trump has always been more of a destroyer than a builder. And I think that it's important for psychoanalysts to look, and for all of us, to look for patterns of his behavior from the past. Where he was always able to pretend to build things, but then break them down. He stole from his father's money. He would go bankrupt and use his father to rescue him. He has a long history. The biggest one, of course, being his delinquent behavior when he was 13, when he essentially amassed an armamentarium of switchblade knives, sneaking into New York from Queens. He, when his father discovered that, his father sent him to military school immediately, pulled him out of his regular school because he knew he couldn't manage his son's destructiveness. What happened after that was his son channeled his destructiveness. It was no longer overt. He used to throw rocks at kids. He used to punch people all the time. He was very obstreperous growing up until he was about 13. And his father said, I can't take it. I can't handle you. This is what we're going to do. What Trump did as a young adult after military school was he learned to channel his destructiveness into more socially acceptable forms, which is, aggressively taunting other people, making business deals dishonestly, and constantly threatening in indirect ways, but never beating up or hitting anybody anymore. So his aggressiveness and destructiveness was sort of outsourced. And one of the main methods he uses is his language, his violence, his insinuation of violence. When he talks about good people on both sides after Charlottesville, that's a way of saying that people who are Nazis and white supremacists have my sympathy and my support. Right. One of the things that happens to all of us when we have a president is that president unconsciously assumes a role in our psyches, whether we like it or not, of being a kind of superego or a conscience of the nation. It affects all of us inside. So the president can set a kind of a moral tone that is really important. And many people are sort of aware of this. I mean, I remember Republicans, when they wanted to impeach Clinton, they felt that he set a moral tone condoning sexual infidelity and all of that stuff going on with the intern in the Oval Office, they felt that he was setting a moral tone and an example. Well, I think they understood that. They didn't understand the unconscious force of that tone. Well, Trump is setting a different moral tone, which is a form of hatred. You don't have to obey the law. You don't have to obey rules. You can give in to your desires and needs whenever they occur to you. You don't have to try to be polite or civilized. You can be blunt. You can be aggressive. You can be violent, and it's okay with me. Unconsciously, I am your superego, giving you permission to attack and destroy others if you feel like it.
Right. The superego.
And then all of...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. All of his political behaviors fit with that particular precept, which is that he wants to give tax cuts to the very wealthy because he feels he's one of the very wealthy, so why not? They should have whatever they want. It's an absence of morality and an absence of a sense of responsibility for running this country and for making it a better place for everyone and for protecting education, the environment, and all those things, plus the rights of the middle class and lower class to succeed and improve. It is an attitude of I'll do whatever I want. It's the same thing as the superego permission of deregulating industry, saying you don't have to follow any rules. You can do whatever you want. I don't believe in political correctness, and I don't care if you pollute the water in Flint. It's okay with me. I'd rather maybe you didn't, but it's fine. You don't need to follow those rules. We can relax emissions rules in California. We don't care about fracking rules. We don't care about them, because we believe that you should be able to do whatever you want. That is his deep destructiveness. It's people call it psychopathy or sociopathic behavior. It's true. They call it narcissistic grandiosity. It's true. But fundamentally, it's deeply cruel, sadistic, and destructive. And it is a motivating factor for how he lives his life. That's why he loved that TV show when he could go on and read a script. He didn't even have to make up the words.
Right, and he got to say you're fired, which is
yeah.
As somebody who's been an employer for over 40 years, I think in all that time I probably fired 3 people, and every single time it was a trauma that took me weeks to get past.
That's right.
Even though I felt justified.
It's also hard to just and it's hard to just even say it.
Yeah.
Explicitly like that. He would just whip out the words like, whoa, you're fired.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I don't know any employer who could do that.
Yeah, and the few who can, like Chainsaw Al Dunlop, who bragged about firing 10,000 employees at Sunbeam and was hired by company after company after company to come in as a CEO simply to fire people or lay them off.
Right.
I think are certifiable as not just sociopaths but sadists. And history proves that out. So, we're talking with Dr. Justin Frank, the psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, clinical professor of psychiatry at George Washington University. How do we deal with this? How do we deal with this as individual citizens of the United States? I have friends and family members who literally have stopped paying attention to the news. They won't read newspapers anymore. They won't watch TV or radio because they just can't stand Donald Trump in their face, and he's everywhere. How do we do that? How do we as a nation do this? And we're going to hit a hard break in about 2.5 minutes here, just FYI.
Well, there's a lot of problems about how to do it. First of all, it's natural to want to turn the TV off and to tune out. And the reason one wants to do that partly is because of the anxiety listening to him creates. In other words, he makes people so angry and frustrated that we become potentially sadistic ourselves and have full destructive fantasies towards him and towards Trump supporters. And, most people don't want to do that, so they just tune it out. It makes people too upset. It's too overwhelming. Okay. I understand that. But one of the ways that is helpful is, like in the last 2 days, be for the people who are there gathering together in El Paso and in Dayton. They are essentially realizing that they're not alone, that they're part of a much larger group and a larger community, and there is strength in that awareness. That's the first thing. It's very important to feel that you can speak with one voice in a positive way and not just in a destructive, sadistic way, which is what happens at Trump's rallies. The second thing is there needs to be some kind of person or a group of people to reclaim moral leadership. There can be no leadership stronger than the president, as I said before about superego function, but we can have people who can reclaim some moral leadership.
Would that be the Democratic candidates or Nancy Pelosi?
Nancy Pelosi. I really think, believe it or not, it's up to this 78-year-old woman, Speaker of the House, to reclaim moral leadership for America.
Well, she's number two from the presidency, and she's arguably one of the top three most powerful people in the United States.
So her moral leadership would be to start impeachment proceedings now, to call back Congress from recess, and to begin to, again, institute legislation for gun control. There's already been a bill or two sent to the Senate even months ago, 5 months ago,
yep,
for gun control. She needs to have a bill starting now for banning assault weapons, let's say, as a starter. But the point is, reclaiming moral leadership has to be done by a leader, not a candidate. There is no leader no matter how great Elizabeth Warren could be, or Pete Buttigieg, and there are a lot of Cory Booker. There's a lot of people who are stepping up and saying things very loud and clear. But if you're a candidate, you can't be a moral leader by definition. The only leader can be Congress at this point, and can be Pelosi.